Hi, this is the Florida Tech Oral History Series, and we are here today with Tori Smith, who is our Resource Sharing Specialist at the Evans Library. And I'm Sky Von Aken. Welcome, Tori.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. So first off, we're going to start out. Tell us a little about yourself. What is your background? What's your education? And how did you end up at Florida Tech?
Well, I was born and raised in central New Jersey. And I was one of those very, very bright, well-educated kids whom nobody seemed to realize had the emotional IQ of about a 7-year-old. So I went off to college with a full ride thinking, I'm the star, and made it to about 7 weeks. And went cuckoo crazy and ran back home and didn't understand why everyone else in the world was perfectly fine except for me. So I had a little rest on the couch for 6 months or so, and then my mother, in her wisdom, said, you are gonna be in college or at a job, one or the other, but you're not gonna sit on my sofa any longer. So I just went out hunting, and I worked at an ice cream parlor, and I sold Avon. Then I saw an ad for clerk typist needed. I can clerk and barely type, but I'll take a try. So I answered an ad and was interviewed by the head of circulation at the time. This was in 1979. Her name was Judy Sauter. And I think she liked me, and I think she kind of felt sorry for me. I was just 19, and I got hired as a clerk typist. Now, what that entailed in those days was to type catalog cards. Yeah. We didn't have online catalogs. We had wooden card catalogs where people would go up and thumb through, and you could search by title, author, or subject. So the copy catalogers would get the books. They would actually assign subjects to the books. This wasn't all automated. People actually thought this through and assigned catalog numbers. And there I would sit all day with my IBM Selectric, which was the latest and greatest technology of its time, and a big old stack of manila library catalog cards, and type them in, and they had to be indented 2 spaces, and it was very, very exacting, and you didn't want to make a mistake. So there I sat, and then I also started filling in at the circulation desk. So as anyone who is involved in libraries knows, working the front desk, that's how you learn stuff. Not in school, not from class. Work that front desk. Every question in the world will be thrown at you. And so they gave me a little more responsibility. I would become, the afternoon manager of the circ desk, managing all these Workstudy students who were years older than I was. It's this little thing. And so I worked circulation probably for my first year and a half of employment here at the library. And then it just so happened that the Interlibrary Loan's librarian was retiring. And I interviewed and was selected, and I got a raise to $2.90 an hour. Wow. So I was living large. And in and out of Interlibrary Loan, I've worked in other areas as well to try me out. But Interlibrary Loan's resource sharing terms are interchangeable. That's pretty much where I've been for, well over 35 years. So.
Okay. What were your first impressions of the university?
Oh, gosh. Well, it was a beautiful campus that I noticed. Coming from up north, to just be around palm trees everywhere, and the botanical garden, and all the bromeliads, and local Florida fauna and flora just astounded me. So I was floored by that. Also by how smart everybody was. I'm a liberal arts gal, So I've always been the sort of smart that's going to do you absolutely no good in life whatsoever. But these people could change the world. I mean, they were astronauts. So that was my main impression. I was too dumb to be here, and it was a really pretty place.
You've seen a lot of things during your time here, and I imagine there are some stories that stand out for you. Could you share some of your favorites?
I would be glad to. This is where you're going to run out of tape. So, gosh, stories. Now when I got here, it was President Cooper. He was the president of the university, and Dr. Miller was sort of his right-hand man. He was like sort of the financial guy. And then there was Dr. Rivet, who was, I guess, in charge of academics, colleges and stuff. Well, I don't know if in your archives you've seen Dr. Rivet. I had a big crush on Dr. Andrew Rivet, okay? Who had a spectacularly wonderful wife. He never gave me a second look. But I do remember we used to be very, very strict in the library. And some front desk people, as is still the case today, far more strict than others. Well, we had this one woman who was working the front desk, and she was just a stickler for the rules. And the rules were that at 4:45 on a Friday afternoon, nobody else gets into the library because we're trying to close. Pouring down rain, one of these, September Florida days where it's just hopeless. And this woman is standing, like, barring the door, and it was Dr. Rivet on the other side. And my little friend Jose and I, who were helping to close up, we just, gave sort of a side glance and went, so fired. So fired. And what's another favorite story of mine that's sort of also based on how strict we used to be with the rules. You wouldn't have recognized it compared to what it is now, but we had signs everywhere with no food, no drink, no skateboards, no running, no smoking. Well, no everything. The Greek life used to be very active. I'm sure it still is, but it's certainly not as mischievous as it once was. Well, one night, and I heard this story from my brother, my younger brother, who worked here for about a year and a half on the night shift. I worked till midnight because we only had like a couple of older ladies that were working, and it was nice to have some big out-of-work construction worker to stand here. Well, he starts hearing these noises coming from upstairs. It was in this library. It wasn't in the old library, it was in this library. And then he starts hearing screaming. And then he starts hearing, could somebody come help us with the chickens? And apparently the Pikes, the Pike Kappas, had not brought in food, drink, cigarettes, drugs. They brought in live chickens is what they brought in. And let them loose.
Dear.
And on one of our big signs had drawn a picture of a chicken, a circle with a line through it. So see, you always overlook something. We had not thought to outlaw the live chicken run in the library. And this happened when Mrs. B. Knight was the nighttime supervisor of the library. Mrs. B. Knight was a fantastic woman. I adored her. She was an older lady, very Southern and very country Southern. Took no nonsense from anybody. My brother instantly fell in love with her. She was probably 60 years old at the time. But she just wasn't having it, if you know what I mean. She used to, if students came to bring their books back after like quarter of, to check them back in like their reserve books, she hit them with a yardstick. There was physical assault here in the library, yes there was. Oh God, she was so great. And what other stories? Oh, I was going to tell the one about in the old library. We had something called the General Medeiros collection. General Medeiros had legacied his memorabilia and military stuff to our library. President Cooper was very proud of that. And some of it at least was in glass cases on the second floor in the library. And me being the new hire, you just do what you're told, And so my job entailed polishing General Medeiros' swords. So, there was a little 19-year-old sitting cross-legged in my jeans on the floor with the rag and some brasso, just polishing swords. And the kids would be looking at me and be like, hey, yeah, I'm a librarian. And he also, in his collection, had a golden wiener. Yes, it was a gold-plated hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
A trophy of some sort. I don't know if I ever worked up the nerve to find out what that was for. But yeah, so that had to get polished too. So I have, in my time, polished the golden wiener. And how many gals can say that?
All right. Which individual or individuals made the most lasting impression on you throughout your years at Florida Tech?
Oh, gosh. I would say some of the professors, honestly, have been so brilliant and have contributed so much to projects that I actually think changed the world, maybe in some little way and so I think getting to work with people who, are working to save the lagoon, the Indian River Lagoon, who travel down to Bolivia to study, rainforests and reclamation of water.
Mm-hmm.
Pilots, so many pilots. I mean, the School of Aviation, not just aeronautics, but the aviation school, used to be much more involved with the library. They were a little closer, and the kids would always come in, and it seems like every year we would have pilots from different countries. We had a year of Turkish pilots, and we had a year of Irish pilots, Chinese pilots, and it absolutely was such a thrill, to get to interact with them. And the only other people that I would say have really influenced me or impressed me, and this still stands true to this day, are the front desk librarians, the circulation desk people. I don't think I've ever seen a work ethic more admirable than those people have. The flexibility they have to have. I mean, when I was doing it, it was because I was a kid and I didn't know I could say no to anything, It never entered my mind. But these people go year in, year out. These are people who could have cushy jobs, middle management, and you never actually have to do anything. You just sit on committees all day. And yet, there they are. They never know what's going to be thrown at them. They have to know either the answer or how to find the answer to pretty much everything. And to me, that I'll never get over being impressed by them.
If you had to pick an unsung hero, who would that be? What was that person like, and what was their contribution?
An unsung hero. Oh gosh. Well, this is Night. And I think some of our Workstudy students, for some reason, come to mind. These are students, and the older I get, the younger they get. So they're now kids. They used to be peers, but they're now kids. Who study and research and write about topics that I couldn't begin to fathom. And here they are, scanning articles for me, shelving books for the library, going in and refilling copy machines. But they do it because that's part of their financial package. That's how they're going to get through school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth it to them. That's a hero to me.
You have worked under all 5 of the university presidents. Could you describe any other memorable moments you have of them?
Well, I didn't kill them. I mean, they just died. Or left, I suppose. Well, it's funny because when I think back on all five were brilliant, accomplished men, but they all brought something new to the table. And it all helped to form what Florida Tech has become. President Cooper, of course, was the visionary, the innovator, the startup guy. Probably far more comfortable talking with engineers and a slide rule, than standing in front of an auditorium making speeches. But he got it on its feet. He thought this was a great idea. And, you have to admire somebody that has a great idea and then actually follows through and makes it happen. And then when President Cooper left, there was a sort of interim time where Dr. Miller became the acting president. Now, Dr. Miller was a businessman, and we needed it. People had some people had a hard time with it, but we needed it. We needed somebody to, we have to budget for things. We have to plan for things. We have to see how we're actually going to keep this going. And so that was his contribution in my mind. And then Dr. Weaver came on, very, very accomplished man, very largely published, well known. And he seemed to be more the international expansionist president. Under Dr. Weaver, we recruited far more internationally, and that only made, added to the richness of this place. And then when Dr. Weaver retired, Dr. Catanese, and Dr. Catanese was more, how about we just build on what we've got here, physically? Let's get these engineering buildings up. Let's seek out foundations and grants and get a football team and try, and make what is actually already here better. Excuse me. So that was him. And now with Dr. McKay, who I've known for quite a number of years, and if you've met Dr. McKay, he is one of those very, very rare, chief executives where you're supposed to be all intimidated and everything. And Dr. McKay will just come and sit down at the lunch table with people and just talk. I think he's awesome. He's very, very down to earth, and he will listen to people who are, might have been considered rather low on the totem pole in the past. But Dr. McKay, I think, as far as I understand it right now, is that we have to, in this world that we live in, we have to hone ourselves in a little bit. And, now we're going to have the 5 pillars, which doesn't mean that everything else gets thrown to the side. It just means that if you're going to sell to up-and-coming freshmen, rather than just get grad students who've been to, the state schools, we want some undergraduates too. Well, we have to concentrate on what they're going to be fascinated with, which is going to be, ecology and cyber security, and all the things that space. So those are my impressions. That was a long-winded way of giving my impressions of the 5 presidents.
It's a lot of presidents
of the university.
During the 25th anniversary of the library, President Catanese stated that Evans Library is the heart of FIT. I'm sure you would agree with that. Can you elaborate on the role of the library in the community on campus?
Yes, I think that there are very, very few places or departments on campus that can actually make or break the impression that a student has of his academic experience. Students that come to the library, it's not really like going to registration or accounting or, to go get your ID card made. That's more you go to a counter, you have a service performed, you know what's going to happen. Students come to the library when they don't know where else to go. Some of the time, I'm just talking that in some cases that happens. And I've always felt like if I can have the student who I notice walks past my office, kind of looks in, walks past again, don't know. And I get up and go over and say, is there anything that I can help you with? It's like, I know I have to be at this class and I don't remember what room it's in and I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do. And I can say, okay, so we're gonna find out. So just something like that. Something like, you know what, let's cut through all the red tape. If you need something, how about I walk over, pull it off the shelf and scan a copy for you? How would that be? Would that help your day? Okay, let's do that, And that's how I interpret being the heart of the university.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can see the gratitude,
You said you have always been involved in interlibrary loans, off and on. How has that role changed over the years? How has your role changed over the years?
Oh, my goodness. I got whiplash from how I've had to change and adapt my role. Okay, interlibrary loan. Honest to goodness, you have no clue about this. You would have what's called the State Union Catalog.
Mm-hmm.
It was a book of microfilm, about that thick. And it would have the Union Catalog, which is a list of journals held by almost every university in the state of Florida. So for every request, which was handwritten, by the way, on a piece of paper, you would pull out your portable microfiche reader, which was, this big, so I could see back then. It is no wonder I am blind as a bat right now. And you'd find it, and you'd have to adjust your microfiche, it was microfiche, I misspoke, and find it, and then it would have a little 3-letter symbol and holdings for each library. And you could pick one library to type on a typewriter a 4-part carbon request form. You sent off 3 and you kept 1 in an envelope in the mail to one library. And then you waited, and maybe they would send you what you wanted, or maybe they would send you your copy back saying, we don't have it. You should go on and try the next library. Needless to say, the students weren't thrilled with the turnaround times. So when OCLC came out with resource sharing, automated resource sharing, we jumped on the bandwagon. This was in the very early 80s. And I went to training, and I went to conventions, and I tried to learn all that I could, because there was nobody else to teach me. So we signed up with OCLC. We got our little symbol, and I could look up, and I could send, at that time, 5 requests, up to 5 places. You could pick 5 places to send requests to at a time. It was amazing. But of course now, what they sent you was a paper photocopy of the journal article. And so I would type up a little slip of paper with the person's name, and I'd staple it together and shelve it, and they would come and pick up their pieces of paper. So everybody had to always be coming back. So fast forward, things change, things get better, things evolve. I have good teachers. And so now students are able to submit requests. They can track the progress of each request, what stage it's in. I can send requests to up to 15 lenders at a time, and our turnaround time is up from I think it was an average of 20 days to an average of 4 days, and that I swear that is skewed because of a few crazy requests, because normally I would be embarrassed if a student had to wait more than a couple of days for the material. So just speed and different ways of delivery. Now we deliver electronic copies. Students can be notified by phone, by email, by text, however they prefer it. They can create their own wall for the received materials that's there for 30 days, for their projects. They can sort them. Yeah, it's good. The one thing that, I know, I'm talking on and on, but one funny thing I've noticed is that our library has subscribed to all these ebooks. We've got all this, we spent all this money on all these ebooks, and all I get are requests saying, could I please borrow the hard copy for them? They're going crazy with these doggone ebooks. I just need a book in my hand. So.
Has the change to ebooks and all the kind of internet-based, has that made your job easier or more difficult?
Well, it's made it, I suppose, more technically challenging, but in a very productive way, in that every request that comes to me now, I check catalogs, I check Google, I check ResearchGate. There's so many different possible ways to access materials that I would feel remiss in my duties if I didn't try to see if there wasn't some way to get anything instantaneously. So while I may have more tasks, I also have more success and instant gratification for my patrons. So I look on it as a plus.
Right. So you've been with the library for over 3 decades, from the original Cooper Building location to the present location in the Evans Library, where we are here today. Could you describe the changes you've seen and the direction you see the library moving forward in the future?
Oh gosh. Well, as you may know, the Cooper Administration Building that was the old library is just a 2-story building. It's not that big. That's where I worked when I first started here at FIT, and it had no elevator, just stairs, and they were the scary kind of stairs that you can see all the way through. Never liked those kind of stairs. I like solid stairs. I like to be able to see all the way through. But that's neither here nor there. In that library, forget having your own office. If you got your own desk, that meant you were kind of a big deal. Most of us, there were three people to a desk, and you just sort of, okay, I'll just go work over here for now and stand up. So shelving, all the books, government documents, and periodicals were on the 2nd floor. The entire collection. And that's how I was able to stay skinny for my 20s, was doing sprints with bound periodicals up and down those steps. So, when you're in that old library, when you were hiring work studies, the boys, they probably thought I was checking them out. No, I was just seeing how strong their thigh muscles were. It's like, no. Okay, you. I want you. You want 5 of them? Yeah, okay, you. You got the job. And it was it was fascinating because all the librarians were so cramped together. I mean, we were right on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
The size of what would in this library be considered the hallway to the bathroom, 3 people worked in that, and the bathroom and the sink was there too, so you'd squeeze in past them to go wash your coffee cup and stuff. And so moving over here, is this where we're going to talk about the library move?
Yeah,
because that was really something. It was probably one of the most bonding experiences that we've ever had, because we had a moving company, but we did an awful lot of that tear down all on our own, just the library staff. I think there were about 18 of us. And we had these huge bins, and everything would just, office chairs, we would throw everything in these bins because it was honestly just a question of getting it from that building over to this building, and we'd sort it all out later. So we would just come and dump and come and back and forth and back and forth. And then my favorite job that I had was I got assigned to do the plumb marks for where the shelves were going to be placed with the chalk, where you get a big string and you make it straight, then you make a chalk mark on the floor. Oh, I was happy as a clam just doing that, to set up the shelves on the 4th floor. And we tried to move the collection in, some kind of order. So, I just remember running forth with people like Kathy Turner, saying, I've got the R's. It's like, okay, I'm coming, I've got the rest of them. But it was so much fun. And God, even our government documents librarian even started a fabulous dating relationship with one of the moving men. I was jealous. It was great. And then we had to set up here and figure it all out. And oh God, it was so long ago that when we set up the staff lounge, you could smoke in there. So we had an ongoing Trivial Pursuit smoking lounge, eating lunch tournament up there. And people would just come around and okay, now I'm going to join in the game. It was so much fun. God, I love those days. And so many of us were coming up in the same age. I had 4 friends, and we all were born in the same year. So it's like we all turned 30 together, we all turned 40 together, but someone probably dropped out or gone on to better things by then, because of course, I just sort of stayed the constant, and they all got married and had babies, and But, yeah, it was a great time.
So that was September 1984 that Evans Library opened. Where do you see Evans Library going in the future?
Oh, wow. I already feel like I'm living in Star Trek times. So this is a lot for me. I'll tell you what I would advise. Number one, I would say try not to lose track of the fact that all of our patrons, all of our library users are still people. Okay, they can't be visualized via data. It's not going to work. And the parts where it does work, it's not the lasting kind of memories that they're going to need. They need the librarians who, how they used to use the phrase, think outside the box? God, how many buzzwords have I lived through? Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, they come up with new ones all the time. And at this stage in life, I'm just like, abide, it'll go away. It'll all go away. You know, management by walking around was the most important thing in the world for a year and a half. Never heard of again. So just sit it out. Anyway, when I say the kind of things that will last, that, yeah, the latest philosophy will come and go. What won't come and go are the times when you stayed late because this PhD candidate was in a flat panic and they just needed to have somebody to talk to that they weren't scared of, or that wasn't an authority figure, that was just a person to be there. And you can't qualify that. You can't, that's not a dot on a chart. That's just, I know I did a good job. You know? And the other thing that I would advise is, no, I'm on mic.
All right,
Sorry.
so switching gears just a little bit
sorry
here.
about that.
You participate in quite a bit of local theater.
I do.
Does your local theater work translate to your work in the library at all? And are those two communities connected?
Well, it definitely translates because I haven't gotten fired yet. So obviously I can act. As far as the linking of the two worlds, well, God knows I try to an obnoxious degree to beg people to come and see me. And I'd like to think that I've gotten some friends over the years just involved in community theater, whether it's my shows or not, just that, oh, I didn't even know this was here. This is a really cool thing to go do. So, and you know, just Dr. Catanese was actually a really huge supporter of community theater. He used to come to, he and his wife Sarah used to come to all my shows. I'm convinced that's the only way he ever knew who I was at like the award ceremonies. It's like, phew, I know this one's name. But he only liked musicals, so when I changed from musicals to straight plays, I lost the Catanese vote. But, so, only insofar as it's another thing to do in this part of Central Florida, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to keep the arts alive. And I've invited some kids to come audition for things that I thought they would be perfect for. So in that way, yes.
What accomplishments or contributions are you most proud of during your time at Florida Tech?
Well, I mean, I haven't exactly climbed the ladder of success, but as I've told people in the past, I've actually fought, and this is heresy, but I've fought very hard not to become library faculty. And it's hard to stand still in one place for this many years, you know. But I knew that as soon as I got my degree and they made me faculty, I would be promoted right out of what I absolutely love to what I cannot stand. And so I'm proud of the fact that I made the choice to steer my own career, you know? Because I genuinely think I'm the luckiest person. I've got the best job in the library. I truly do. There are very, very few library jobs where you get thank yous.
Mm-hmm.
And I may not get them all the time, but sometimes I do, and they really mean something to me. I'm proud that some of our professors who've gone on to publish important works, Dr. Nabil Matar, who was the head of humanities, and Dr. Ivor Dudall, who worked for so many years in oceanography and ocean engineering, put me in the dedications of their books because I had made it a mission to get them what they needed, even some things that were very, very hard. And I, in my tiny, stupid kind of way, I like to feel that I keep some of the library administrators a little grounded, you know? Like if we're having meetings and they're talking about data visualization, I don't know what that is. What is that? I've never heard of this. And so they show me, all the fancy data, stuff. It's a chart. Oh, it's a chart. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. It's a mark on a chart. You can make it a bar, and then you can make it a pie. Oh, thank goodness. Now we know everything. So I like to think I throw a little monkey wrench and maybe a little humor into the library.
Okay, and so we talked a little bit about what you see for the direction of the library. How about what do you see in store for the future of Florida Tech?
Gosh. I think that we're going to see a lot more people wanting to do almost everything remotely. That the physical space may become less and less important as a library. Now, what our students are telling us is that they want to be able to access services and materials anytime from anywhere. But for goodness sake, don't give up this building because we need spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see everything sort of has already skewed more and more that way. The only caveat I think I would give to not just our library, but Florida Tech, libraries as a whole, is I think sometimes we really undervalue ourselves to the point where we can be a little bit of a doormat. Slavishly, seeking out, love me, love me, love me, love me, tell me that you need me. Where we don't need to. We give a truly value-added content to education, social interaction, and forming world leaders to come. It's sort of like we already love you. You don't have to prove so much. Just in doing my job, get me what I need. I don't really need to know how you do it. I want you to be magic. I don't really care. Get me what I need when I need it. That's the library. That's what librarians do. And I think that's what employers are going to expect of our students.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to give me what I need. Don't care how you got here. Well, if you come to Florida Institute of Technology, they'll reach for the flash. It'll be there. They've seen it. They've had their hands on it. But they're educated human beings to begin with. And only good can come from that. And I'm proud to be a little part of it.
Lastly, we have an opportunity to send a message to the future, 50 years or 100 years or even further from now. What would you like to say?
I'd like to say I hope that you've kept the best and discarded the rest. There are intrinsic things of importance in life and in the world. As a matter of fact, I think archives are going to be tremendously important in the future. Information, knowledge, history that you don't have to plug in. It's just there. If you have eyes, it's yours. You can touch it. I mean, if I was writing science fiction, I think I would write a story about where all the really rich people were the ones that still had like paper money. And they had a book with pages. They could touch it. And look, it's right there. Because everybody else will just have the phone. Just have the phone. That's my life. It's right there. And the doggone battery died. So I think in the future, I wish for a future that doesn't require batteries.
Okay. This has been the Florida Tech Oral History Series. It is March 17th, 2017, and we've been here with Tori Smith. Thank you very much, Tori Smith, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much.